Okay, let's just jump right in. Picture this. The Red Sea parts. An entire nation walks through on dry land, escaping slavery. It's miraculous,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely mind-blowing. The scale of it is hard to even comprehend. You'd think an event like that would stick.
You really would. But then, almost immediately, it feels like, while Moses is literally up on Mount Sinai getting the Ten Commandments directly from God.
The rule book for their entire existence, basically.
Exactly. Down in the camp, what happens? They decide to melt down gold and make a calf to worship.
It's jarring, the speed of that turnaround from deliverance to, well, that. It just begs the question, why?
Right. So that's what we're doing today. We're diving deep into Exodus chapter 32, the whole golden calf story. We've been looking at an analysis from Grace Digital Network that tries to unpack the reasons behind it.
And our aim isn't just to retell the story, but to really get into the motivations, the fallout, and maybe uncover why this, ancient event still feels relevant.
Definitely. So let's set the scene properly first. They've just crossed the Red Sea. They're safe, but they're in the wilderness. It's not exactly stable ground.
No, it's uncertain. They're vulnerable. And that context, that feeling of being in a sort of limbo is probably key.
And that vulnerability seems to kick in fast. Moses goes up the mountain. It's a vital mission, right? Receiving God's law.
Hugely important.
But he's gone for a while, 40 days and 40 nights, in fact. And the people, they start getting antsy, really impatient.
That long absence is crucial. They're used to having Moses there, leading them physically. Without him.
They feel adrift.
Yeah, maybe like those sheep without a shepherd that Mark talks about in the gospel. Even with the massive evidence of God's power they just saw, maybe that human need for a visible leader just took over.
It seems so, because they go to Aaron, Moses' brother, and basically demand, make us gods, gods who can lead us.
Which is stunning because they just heard God say very clearly back in chapter 20, do not make idols. Explicitly forbidden.
But Aaron, he just folds. He collects their gold, probably the stuff they carried out of Egypt, right? Melts it down and makes this golden calf. It's baffling.
Aaron's role is really puzzling. Was it just giving in to peer pressure? Was he scared? Maybe trying to somehow manage the situation?
Whatever it was a massive failure of leadership, wasn't it, given the direct command?
A huge lapse. So they have this idol, but why a calf? What's the significance there?
Well, like you said, maybe that need for a visible leader, a shepherd. But there's also this idea about struggling with delayed gratification.
The need for something now. They couldn't wait for Moses, couldn't trust the unseen God.
Seems like it. And maybe a failure of memory, too. Like, what have you done for me lately? Forgetting the Red Sea miracle almost instantly.
That's a scary thought, how quickly gratitude can fade when things feel uncertain. That insecurity kicks in.
And then there's the Egyptian connection. They'd lived there for centuries. Egypt had bull gods, right? Apis, Hathor.
Exactly. And the Canaanites, where they were headed, had Baal, often shown as a bull. So, was it familiar? Something they fell back on in a crisis.
It's plausible, isn't it? Maybe not even consciously rejecting God, but grabbing onto a familiar religious symbol when their leader vanished.
Yeah, trying to maybe worship Yahweh, their God, but using an image they understood from their past. A disastrous misunderstanding, of course.
And they really went for it. The text describes a full-on festival, eating, drinking, and, well, playing immorally is the phrase used. Revelry.
And here's the key part you mentioned. They seem to claim, these are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt, linking the calf to their deliverance.
So they weren't necessarily saying, forget God, but maybe this calf represents God for us now.
It seems that way. It's still idolatry, trying to control or define God through a physical object, making him tangible, maybe more manageable in their eyes.
Predictably, God is not pleased. He sees it from the mountain and tells Moses essentially, your people, the ones you brought out, have corrupted themselves. They've turned aside quickly.
The anger is intense. God even suggests wiping them out and starting over with Moses. A complete reset.
Wow. But Moses, this is where he really steps up. He argues with God. He says, wait, these are your people. You brought them out with great power.
He appeals to God's reputation too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Like, what will the Egyptians think if you rescue them just to destroy them in the wilderness?
Yeah, brilliant point. And then the clincher. He reminds God of the promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. The covenant promises.
He's holding God to his own word, his own character. It's an incredible moment of intercession.
And it works. The text says the Lord relented from the harm he had said he would do to his people, that harm being the destruction he threatened.
Moses' understanding of God's character, his covenant faithfulness, saves them from immediate annihilation.
So Moses comes down the mountain. He's carrying these 2 stone tablets inscribed by God himself. The text emphasizes this, the work of God, the writing of God.
Imagine the weight of that, literally and figuratively.
He meets Joshua on the way down. Joshua hears the noise from the camp and thinks it's war.
But Moses knows better. He hears it, and he knows it's not battle cries, it's revelry.
And when he gets close enough to actually see the calf and the dancing, he snaps. Pure fury. He throws the tablets down right there at the foot of the mountain and smashes them.
A powerful visual symbol of the covenant being broken by their actions. Shattered trust, shattered law.
He doesn't stop there. He takes the calf, melts it in the fire, grinds it down to powder.
Utter destruction of the item.
Scatters the powder on the water and makes the Israelites drink it.
Whoa. That's intense. What's the thinking there?
Maybe forcing them to ingest their sin, to internalize the bitterness of what they'd done. It's a harsh lesson.
Definitely a graphic consequence. No escaping it.
Then he confronts Aaron. What did these people do to you, he asks, that you brought this great sin upon them?
And Aaron's response is just incredibly weak, isn't it?
Oh, it's classic blame shifting. He says, don't be angry. You know these people are bent on evil. Then he says they demanded gods, gave him their gold.
And then the best part.
I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf. Like it was magic. No responsibility taken.
Unbelievable.
Okay.
Apparently, Deuteronomy tells us Moses had to pray hard for Aaron too, or he would have been destroyed along with the others.
Right. So after that pathetic excuse, Moses stands at the camp entrance and shouts, "Whoever is for the Lord, come to me."
And who steps up?
The Levites, his own tribe, they rally to him.
Showing their loyalty in that critical moment.
And then comes a really hard part of the story. Moses, seemingly under God's instruction, commands the Levites to go through the camp and kill the main instigators, the ones leading this idolatry.
And they do. About 3,000 men fall that day. A terrible consequence.
It's stark. Some people contrast that number, 3,000 killed because of breaking the law, with the 3,000 saved at Pentecost when the Spirit was given.
An interesting parallel. And it's often suggested that the Levites' loyalty here is why they were later chosen as the priestly tribe, dedicated to God's service.
Makes sense. But even after that judgment, Moses isn't finished to fix things. He goes back up the mountain.
Again, what for this time?
To plead for forgiveness for the people. He says, they've committed a great sin, but now please forgive their sin, but if not, then blot me out of the book you have written.
Wow. He offers his own life, his own standing with God for theirs. That's profound leadership, true intercession.
It really is. God's response is kind of twofold. He says, okay, whoever sinned will be held accountable. He mentions a future plague or punishment.
So justice is still coming.
Right. But also, he says he won't go with them himself in the same way anymore. He'll send an angel instead. He says he's afraid if he stays in their midst, his holiness might just, consume them because of their stiffness.
That's sobering. A withdrawal of his immediate presence because of their sin.
And when the people hear this, the bad news that God won't be going with them directly, they finally seem to get it. They mourn, they weep.
A delayed reaction, but maybe genuine this time.
And they take off their ornaments, the gold and jewelry, likely the very stuff that funded the calf. The text notes, they didn't wear them again after that point at Mount Horeb.
A tangible sign of repentance, stripping away the source of the idolatry. But, as we know, the lure of idols didn't disappear forever.
No, definitely not. Fast forward a few centuries, and you get King Jeroboam in the northern kingdom of Israel.
Ah, yes, Jeroboam's calves.
For totally political reasons, trying to stop people going south to Jerusalem to worship, he sets up 2 golden calves in Bethel and Dan.
Unbelievable. Repeating the exact same mistake, just dressed up differently.
And it leads that whole kingdom down a path of sin that eventually ends in their destruction by the Assyrians. The pattern is just undeniable. Calf idols lead to disaster.
It really highlights this persistent human weakness, doesn't it? This tendency to want something tangible, something controllable, instead of trusting the unseen God.
So bringing it to today, what are the takeaways? The analysis we looked at highlighted how easily we can turn God's gifts into idols.
Yeah, like worshiping the blessings instead of the blesser, making career or money or relationships or even ministry success the ultimate thing instead of God himself.
That's subtle but powerful. Anything that takes God's place at the center becomes a kind of modern golden calf.
Absolutely. And the impatience thing, too. We want God to act on our schedule. when he doesn't.
We try to force things, make our own calves, our own solutions, instead of waiting and trusting.
Exactly. We take matters into our own hands because waiting feels too passive, too uncertain.
And we're pretty good at justifying it, aren't we? Like Aaron's flimsy excuse, we create our own logic for why our priority, our idol, is okay.
We rationalize putting other things first. It's insidious.
Ultimately, this whole story just hammers home why those first two commandments are so foundational, isn't it?
No other gods, no carved images. It's about keeping the main thing, devotion to the one true God alone. The calf story is Exhibit A for why that matters so much.
It really lays bare that constant battle in the human heart.
Yeah, the need for vigilance, for constantly checking our own hearts and motives.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, we've seen this incredibly fast fall from grace, from the Red Sea to the golden calf. We've explored some reasons of fear, impatience, forgetting, maybe cultural baggage.
We saw the devastating consequences, but also Moses' amazing role as an intercessor, literally standing in the gap. And this recurring theme of idol worship pops up again and again.
It's a story about human failure, for sure, but also about God's justice and, remarkably, his willingness to relent and forgive when pleaded with.
His patience is pretty astounding throughout the whole narrative.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. What are the potential golden calves in our own lives today? It might not be a literal statue, but what things, success, security, relationships, control, even good things, might be subtly taking the place that only God should have?
Yeah, how do we make sure we're genuinely worshiping the Creator, not the things He created, however good they might seem? It's definitely something worth reflecting on.